Mr. Singh, so you heard there what all the opposition politicians are saying. The Prime Minister, however, has applauded the budget. His Finance Minister's budget said this is a budget, really an Amrit Kal budget, which will change India's growth expansion, and it's a budget for the middle class. What would you say?
Well, I think that the budget has several virtues. Most important virtue has been the fact that it is a budget which is responsible, It has been responsive. I heard some comment that the word poor has not been used. But actually, if you look at the content, the word is not so important. It's the content which is important. It's the framework of the budget. So I'll say 4 key features. First and foremost, it is responsive because it addresses the concerns of almost every important stakeholder. Women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, marginalized community, youth, issues of employment have been raised, small and medium industries, and we name it, agriculturists. So every segment has been in some form or the other benefited from this budgetary outlays. Second, I think that it is responsible because I just heard a comment saying that this budget was designed to sink India deeper in the issues of debt and imposing a grave burden on the future generations. I think this is far from the truth. In fact, if you ask me, it cannot be heads you lose, tails also you lose. If you do a faster fiscal consolidation, you really cut down the outlays for many essential things which is necessary to support growth. But if you do a slower fiscal consolidation, then of course you might get this critique that there is too much
Mr. Singh, sorry, but just on that specific point, because I think what the opposition is saying, that while the government has decided to put its money behind capital expenditure, behind a growth gamble, what's happened to sectors like health, education, agriculture, rural areas? That's what they're pointing out, that the allocations there, the opposition says, have actually been cut.
No, see, the point is this. Take a thing like educate. The entire expenditure on infrastructure. Infrastructure, not a word. What does the infrastructure mean? It means roads, ports, highways, airport. It means what? It means job creation. It means substantially improving the competitive efficiency of the Indian economy. It enables India's exports to benefit. It, of course, also improves the ease of doing business. So I think that the word infrastructure masks a whole lot of multipliers which is embedded in it. And, of course, we know that expenditure on infrastructure is vastly more beneficial. So I think this issue of what has happened to women, for instance, very substantial benefits given to women. You have talked of education and health. On the health sector, the numbers have gone up. Of course, you can say that this includes the vaccine costs. But the numbers, if you look at comparatively speaking, the numbers have significantly gone up for what the allocations were last year. There are other initiatives in the health sector, particularly, for instance, I think that the opening up of these new nursing colleges, a vast number of them, 467 if I recall, tying up with the medical colleges, will be having a catapulting effect in terms of the jobs in the rural economy, using the paramedics, improving the efficiency and quality of primary health centers, improving the quality of health centers in municipal bodies. So I think that it's not by allocation alone. The initiatives which have been taken, which will certainly setting up these colleges, nursing colleges, is not going to come for free. It's going to cost money. And these are commitments which have been made. Do not go by outlays alone. Or for instance, in the issue of education, we have just had, Sonia, the last ACER report presented last week, which showed that access had increased, but quality and outcomes had come down. Why? One of the factors was that the quality of teachers was inadequate.
No, and it was nice to see the focus on reading. I thought it was really nice to hear the focus on reading and the allocation for libraries in this budget. So yes. I thought that was unusual. Also, of course, the big change. Now, this is this is where we'd call it an election budget. But when we say the great middle class, the finance minister describing herself as middle class just before this budget as well. Do you think it will actually benefit the middle class as we go into the finale of the 2024 election year soon? Do you think it will be a big benefit, or will it be, as many experts now look at the fine print as saying that this moving to a new tax regime, it doesn't really benefit you at all? Do you think the big change is the fact that the rebate limit has gone up to 7 lakhs?
Well, I think that is one of the factors, but that's not the only factor. The middle class will benefit by a much greater improvement in the life quality of the urban sector. There is a whole portion on the new initiatives for improving the urbanization process, and the initiatives for setting up more urban nascent townships, which will benefit largely the middle class, looking at the pressures of population or migration from the rural to the urban economy. So middle class will benefit by taxation, but they will also benefit by a host of other measures. Or for instance, the measures taken on enhancing the reach and quality of technology, the whole issue of improved governance through the whole digital process. So I think you must take it not as individual items, you make it as an integrated whole. And I think that if you add up all this, the middle class would be one of the major beneficiaries of this budget. I wish that she had also used that expression, which is there, of course, in the economic survey. The number of people who have left the poverty line has been a very, very large amount. And these are largely middle class people who have moved out of the below the poverty into a category 400 million people, which is not a small amount.
But Mr. Singh, I just wanted to ask you because of MGNREGA allocation, and I think one of our guests earlier today said that, we can't have a budget with a two-track economy in a sense. So that is the big worry, that while you're talking about that, don't go by just allocations or don't go by just outlays, that the infrastructure expansion will have a beneficial effect. But the point that we still need, the MGNREGA allocation budget is still of such high demand. Many states have said that they cannot pay their MGNREGA dues because they haven't got the money from the center. States like Bihar, UP, Jharkhand are high in that list. Why is it that the focus is not on providing productive jobs so that you don't need rural labor to look at MGNREGA as their only alternative?
But suppose I reverse that question to you, Sonia, and ask myself the question that MGNREGA, as you know, is demand-driven. We all know that. And isn't it far better that you move away from the MGNREGA type of employment to employment in capital-creating assets? So the over 1 lakh crore that was allocated by the finance minister last year to improve the quality of infrastructure in the states, I'm sorry to be able to say that it was not fully utilized by the states. The states did not utilize the fiscal space that was given to them. The fiscal space given to them by us, fiscal space given to them by the central government. And this year, again, she has given an additional fiscal space to the states. Of course, 0.5% contingent on power reforms. But the 1.3 lakh crore additional allocation over and above the borrowing limit of the states for purposes of capex expenditure is precisely designed to improve the quality of employment. To move away from the MGNREGA type of employment into employment which will have long-term benefits, not only for their income, but long-term benefits for improving the infrastructure of states as well.
Mr. NK Singh, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV's special budget coverage.